Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video we are going to look at this FT03 super throwing flashlight from the company Astrolux. So before we get too far, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at banggood.com who did provide this for review. Now this FT03, this comes in at 2400 lumens. Now, at a first thought, you're like, well, what's the big deal? It's only 2400 lumens. I mean, let's be realistic. In this day and age, lumen output is creeping up and up and up to high performance flashlights. Well, this is 2400 lumens, yet it's 200,000 candela. So what exactly is candela? Well, we're going to get into that in a little bit. I'll talk to you about that in detail, but first what we're going to do is get this out into the field. So earlier this summer, I did have an opportunity to bring this out on a deep mountain wilderness backpacking trip where I had a good opportunity to get some good long beam shots and really see this overall performance. Now the first thing I'm going to tell you is this flashlight is jam-packed with functionality. It is just loaded with programming, and that to me is a pro and a con. It's a pro because you can really fine-tune this to exactly what you want in terms of programming. It's a con because, and I don't even know how it happened, but while I was out there, somehow I got into the programming mode. It got me kind of all screwed up. I didn't have the instructions with me, and well, I fumbled around with it just a little bit. But I think overall I pulled it off, and I'll be able to show you a good demonstration of the capabilities of this flashlight. So now we're going to get out to the field, show you this good quality field use footage, then we're going to come back to the studio and I'm going to go through all the details. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. Now in today's video we are going to look at this Astrolux FT03. Now I always love getting my flashlights out into the backpacking wilderness to really test them, and as you look here, beautiful, just vast, open, long distance vistas. So if we're going to get some conclusions on the capabilities of this flashlight, I feel like this is a great place for it to happen. So yeah, getting into this Astrolux FT03, you can see here, this is outfit with a dome. Now this dome here, definitely removable. It's kind of a cheap little add-on piece that I thought might be cool. So I'm gonna give this a try. However, without the dome, you'll see this has a magnificent large bezel here. This huge lens and bezel right on the front, just absolutely screaming for long distance throw. Now as I carried this out into the wilderness, I did have it locked. So 4 quick presses, you'll see the flashlight is flashing, and at this point it will turn on. So 4 quick presses of the mode button and that unlocks the flashlight. Now right away you will see this has a green LED indicator light on there. So nice little touch, very nice. Easy to find that button there, no problem. Single press turns on the light, single press turns it off. So now on and long pressing, you will see that this goes into basically an infinite cycle. So cycling high and low. You're not really going to be able to see it too well right now, but we will get into it a little bit later on. So now single pressing through each one of the modes. Here you'll see low, medium, high, and turbo. There's turbo, off. Now in that turbo mode, you will see a nice beam of light. Now it's not even dark out just yet, but a nice beam of light, and that's a good sign when you get a good bright light way out into the distance, and even while it's light outside. Now looking at that beam, you will see it illuminating deep into the woods, so nice and deep penetration. The bugs out here are awful right now. This is brutal. You can see them flying around just right in front of the lens. I mean, look at that. You can see it illuminating all the bugs. So now using the FT03 with the dome, you'll see here, on, off, pressing now, through the different modes, and this is a very nice and extremely useful glow. This really doesn't hurt your eyes. It's very soft. Does a beautiful job illuminating very nicely. This is absolutely what you'd want on a night like tonight, just for general ability to get around, see what's going on. Don't step into that spider web. That would suck. But yeah, I am happy with this. I think this diffuser is awesome. Really helping you to navigate if I had to. Let's just check out a couple different modes. You'll notice that glows bright green. So 1, 2, 3. Let's give that a shot. That's a nice amount of light here. So if I had to guess, that would be like medium mode. Very nice. Illuminating some of the other campsites, no problem. And navigating with ease. This works very nice. So now getting into the FT03, it is quite dark. So I'm going to click it once and you can kind of see in front of you. In fact, basically here's a leaf. So that is the moonlight mode. Very, very nice, even low moonlight mode. That works fairly well. Now you can kind of see that does give me plenty of light to navigate through here. And it is quite dark, and that's working very well. So I would get maximum battery life out of this and still be able to navigate. Now, the sky is just a little bit bright, so the darker it gets, the more I'll need. But what if we bump it up one notch? Here we go. So now, bumping it up again, you can see this does have a hot spot with some decent flood off to the sides. Makes for a pretty nice beam pattern, not terribly wide, but enough that I can see where I'm going, no problem. Coming up to the edge of the water here. Let's press that again. So now, beaming up, one more mode, you'll see this starts to get some pretty good throw off into the distance. Now, the camera does not pick this up terribly, but you can see all the way across the water here. There's a huge boulder there, and that is what that is. So now, 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Pretty nice beam shots there, lighting this up, looking pretty good. Off into the distance, way out into the distance, as far as the river bend is, way across. Now again, you're not able to see it with the camera, but I can definitely see all the way to the end of the river. That is very far. Now, a final long press there, that's the turbo mode. So here, now, again, illuminating all the way, these trees, lighting this up like completely. That is wild. This is super powerful. Nice bright beam deep inside the woods. That's awesome. And now again, just navigating back, making my way towards my hammock. And it is getting late, a long, long day. And that's about all I have in for adventure tonight. So it's time to about wrap this up. All right, so there you have it, the field use footage of the Astrolux FT03. Now, let's get into the discussion about Lumens and Candela, because I think this is where you're really gonna start to understand the true performance of this Astrolux FT03. Now here before me, I have a number of flashlights that we have taken a look at in the past, and we're gonna go through each one of these and talk about it in a little bit of detail. So the first one here is the Nightcore TM9K. Now the reason why I start with this particular flashlight is because of all of these, it actually has by far the largest lumen output. So this TM9K has a lumen output of 9,500 lumens. But this translates into 18,000 candela and a beam distance of roughly 293 yards, or in other words, 267 meters. Now, why is that important? Well, again, candela is sort of the power, it's the punch, it's that intensity. lumens are really only an overall brightness. It does not tell the entire story. But Candela really does weigh in to the overall punch. And that punch is what does translate into the throw, the distance of the beam, and brightness at that distance. So it's one thing to say 9,500 lumens, but in reality, we only have a throw of 267 meters and a total Candela of 18,000. Now moving over to the Sofern Q8, again, another flashlight we've taken a look at. Now this Q8 is 6,000 lumens, but this has a fairly reasonable punch at 50,000 Candela. So as you look, this has a nice big lens with really smooth reflectors. It has 4 LEDs, and the performance on this at distance in remote wilderness at night was extremely impressive. A 550 meter throw. So again, if you look at the overall performance of the Sofern Q8 with the 6,000 lumens and that 50,000 Candela, this really did start to be a stellar performer. Now continuing to move down in lumen output, the WowTac A5 at 3,650 lumens. Again, knocking this down to 13,750 Candela and a beam throw distance of roughly 234 meters. So as we look at the WowTac, this had a little more of an orange peel design, has a smaller reflector, but the interesting thing is this is the 25560 battery, just the same as what we see in the Astrolux FT03. And so that now leading us to the Astrolux, you will see that the FT03 having 2,400 lumen output. I mean, literally, like almost a quarter of the night core, yet at 190,000 Candela and a beam throw distance of 875 meters. So even though the Astrolux has just about a quarter of the lumen output as the Nightcore TM9K, in reality, it has like 10 times the punch. So from 18,000 Candela to 190,000 Candela. So when you put it into perspective and you look at the overall performance on something like the TM9K, you can't really just look at lumens. Again, that's only part of the story. So here, now that we're talking about that 190,000 Candela on this Astrolux FT03, I think you're starting to understand why this has the performance that it does. And so now looking at it in detail, the lens on this is just a monster. I mean, massive. And really, when we look at it here, I am talking about, 2 3/4 inches of lens size. So, I mean, that is just serious. Nice, big, deep dish. You can see the LED on the inside. Absolutely mirror polish perfect for the maximum amount of throw. And this beam is just an absolute punchy and penetrating and far throwing beam. So very well done in that respect. And even at really how big this flashlight is, it's very comfortable in the hand. It indexes well. It's not overly heavy. In fact, I'd say it's just a little bit heavier than some of the other flashlights I've been carrying around, and in all reality, actually probably lighter than the Sofern Q8. So, you know, all things considered, it doesn't really bother me, and for this amount of performance, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Overall, very nice construction. This is beautifully done, and I didn't say it earlier, but this is my very first Astrolux flashlight. So, I mean, to me, to get this in my hands and to evaluate the overall craftsmanship and the machining and the quality, and then seeing the performance, it is actually extremely well done. So I'm happy to have this in my hands, and it's, you know, a very fortunate opportunity for me to be able to look at a new company. It's not all the time I get a new manufacturer in my hands. So this Astrolux definitely has nice overall fit and finish. I like some of the little details. You get that sort of copper colored bezel there, so very nice on the button. And you'll see as I depress it, you do get an indication as I press that on and off, just a little indicator there showing you the battery. So that's your battery life. And very, very cool. And as I get into this in the back here, this does have a USB Type-C charger. I've been talking about this quite a bit lately on my channel. I have really tried to make the changeover on the bulk of my cables to USB Type-C. I am totally sick of micro USB. They've all bent, they've all broken, they've lost communication, they've stopped charging. But so far with my USB Type-C cables, they've been bulletproof. And the bottom line is they're actually able to go in either direction. So a little less paying attention to the details when you plug them in. But overall, very nicely done, chargeable, awesome. Now, the one thing is, and as I get into this here, you will notice that as I remove the battery, this is not an Astrolux battery. This is actually just a random battery that I happen to have from a cheap flashlight. So this did not come with the battery. Not a big deal. I do have a few personally myself, but that is something to consider. You may not have a battery for this right away. So this does take a 26650 battery. However, it also does come with an adapter to allow you to use an 18650. Now, personally, I would not necessarily suggest that. I would suggest going straight to that 26650 battery right away, so invest into it. It's going to be worth the money. You want the maximum performance, you want the maximum runtime, and this FT03 is definitely meant to perform with the 26650. Now, you will see that I just happened to unthread the head. You can also take off the tail cap. So here you end up with an intermediate piece that is the handle. Now, you will notice that it has black threads, gasketed, and silver threads, gasketed. The black does go to the tail cap. The silver does go to the head of the flashlight. So just a little detail there. It does look like it may be exactly the same in both directions. I'm just kind of curious what happens if you spin this around. Now, I don't necessarily suggest doing it, but it looks like that will go. And here, it looks like that will go. So I think it's just thread color. I don't think it really would affect anything. I'm always just a little bit curious about that, but it does feel like it's machined a little bit better to go in its intended direction. So just getting everything back and assembled here. But you will notice very nice electronics. Everything seems to be done well. Nice quality spring. Good overall, brass inserts on the inside. You can see those little pins. These actually thread out. And just a little word to the wise, if you take your battery in and out and you ever have a problem with your flashlight turning on, it could possibly be because this piece on the inside has started to back out and has stopped making contact. And you may need a pair of needle nose pliers to get in there and spin that and get that back into place. But again, just getting this reassembled, and you'll see actually now, blinks a couple times. That battery is making contact, and very minimal rattle. Everything on this is very tight, which I greatly appreciate. I've had a number of flashlights in my hands in the past with removable batteries, and they just rattle. This is very well constructed and is nice and tight. And so now we'll get into some of the programming, and this is where things can get a little bit crazy. I'm not going to go all the way through the details. I'm going to show you and discuss the basics because this is potentially very, very complicated. I will get lost, you will get lost, and I will not be able to perfectly demonstrate this. So I'm going to tell you some of the basics so that you understand, and then I'm going to show you basic operation of the modes. So that's the first thing, is this comes predefined with predefined stock modes, and then you can start to tweak everything. And when I say everything, I literally mean everything from the direction of the ramping, so whether it goes from low to high or high to low, how it ramps. So you can do a continuous ramp, or you can do bump stages by depressing the buttons. You can choose whether or not the little LED indicator stays on. You can determine whether or not you want it to tell you the battery status. You can choose different strobe modes. So there are different strobe modes, whether you want a blinking strobe or a bike strobe or a beacon or an SOS. You can pick all of that. You can determine whether or not the strobes even turn on. You can select the intensity of your moonlight mode. I mean, This thing is so in detail in terms of programming. It's spectacular, but it's also a curse, because if you're not good at it, you can get completely lost. And I can tell you, I am not good at this. I'm going to continue to learn and practice with this flashlight to the point where I get it completely dialed in for me. That's an exciting thought, but I know it's going to take me a little bit. So at this point, I'm going to show you some of the very basics to get you started, but this user's manual is absolutely critical to getting you through all the different options. And so the first thing is, well, let's go into the standard stock mode so you can see how this behaves. So this flashlight now is in the stock configuration. You'll see that it does have the little indicator that just always glows. So that drains a little bit of your battery, but not a big deal. And I like that. I think it's just cool. And actually, bottom line is, I don't even mind that my battery drains a little bit, because if I go anywhere significant, I'm going to charge it up from scratch anyway. So might as well always have a little bit of a draw and work the battery. I don't necessarily even think that's a bad thing. Now, a single press here, you will see that the light is on. Single press, it's off. Again, single press, it's on. Single press, it's off. Now, I know that sounds super basic, but that's not always the case with this flashlight. It just depends on how you have it programmed. So, again, pressing the button once. Now it's on. And I'm going to lean on the button and hold down. And you see, this changes the intensity until it blinks all the way up. And then I press it, long press again, and it goes all the way down. And now it's back in that moonlight mode. Now, in this particular configuration, I cannot change the intensity of the moonlight mode. And I cannot report to you any of the intermediate lumen outputs, because it is a continuous beam. So as I hold down there, ramping all the way up to the 2400, long press again, all the way back down. Now I'm going to stop somewhere in the middle for this demonstration. So now I've gotten off of that. I'm leaving it sort of right in the middle. I bet you that's around 1,000 lumens. And single press to turn the light off. So if I leave it there, what it means now is anytime I single press, it has memory and it comes right back to that 1,000 lumen output. That's sweet. I really like that, because you can dial this in for very specific needs. So this has 3 quickly and easily accessible light outputs. So first is, if you long press real quick and then let go, this actually does come in on your moonlight mode. And the moonlight mode is so faint. I mean, you can barely see that this flashlight is on. And the only way you can tell is by me turning it back off. So again, long press and let go. That comes in right away on your moonlight mode. But now, again, if you single press, well, that comes in into that intermediate mode. So whatever you had left it on and ramped it to, so if I left it at 1,000 lumens, and I press it again, well, that's your 1,000 lumen output. And then you can double click real quick, and that goes all the way up to your highest 100% or 2,400 lumens. So again, what you can do, long press real quick and let go, that's your moonlight. Single press, and that's your memory, or double press, and that's your turbo. So like I said, you get 3 easily and quickly accessible lumen outputs that are very useful. The moonlight mode, that's useful. That middle mode, very useful. And that turbo, again, very useful. So where I would use this is my standard lumen output. Whatever I had it set would be my navigation, my ability to walk around camp. Maybe I have it bumped to, I don't know, maybe about 300 lumen output, and that's not going to kill my vision. It's going to be enough light that I can navigate safely, and it's not going to kill the battery. Then I use my moonlight mode when I'm getting close up and I'm trying to read something or look at something that maybe I'm in my tent or I'm in my hammock. I'm out and it's dark. Maybe you're using this for basic, I don't know, automotive work or something. And you just want to see something real quick, or you have it in your car. Well, you don't necessarily want to kill your vision. You could use that moonlight mode. but I always need that punch. I mean, bottom line is, you get a flashlight like the FT03 for that punch. You really want that good throw, the high output, and that beam distance. Well, then you get that double press going to your high mode. So great programming, and I do very much enjoy it. But again, that's just the standard stock programming. So if you want to get into the specialty programming, what you do is you long press on this button here for about 16 seconds until it flashes. And I'm going to start counting, and I'll tell you why. So here we go. I'm going to long press. We're going to hold that down. We're going to keep it held down. Keep holding. And now you'll see, bang. So 1. Now you're sitting there. That's program 1. 2. So here's your program 2. It'll flash again. Menu 3. It'll flash again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Menu 4. It'll flash again. Okay? And now it's out. So right away, there are 4 menus that you can access immediately by jumping into the programming mode. And I'm going to jump into only menu number 1 to show you what you need to do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to long press. It's going to go into the programming mode. I'm going to press the button once after the first flash. 1. Press it once. Now that should have changed me from the ramping mode now to a, I would say, step mode. So I need to let this go through the rest of the menus. You can see here as it flashes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's menu 4. And I can tell this worked because the ramping mode has 4 menus and the step mode has 8 menus. So you'll see here as it flashes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that should be menu 8, and this should now come out of programming mode. And it's done. Now you can see I have tactical. And as I press the button, I go through the different steps. So long pressing now goes to the tactical strobe. Here you can see actually that's going to be beacon. And back out. Now, if I turn this off, double click real quick, well, that doesn't really do my turbo anymore. So that changed. That's actually just selecting through my modes. So double clicking doesn't do anything anymore. Completely changes the way the flashlight operates. So that's what happened to me when I was out in the mountains. For whatever reason, I got into this mode and it wasn't ramping and I was all confused. So anyway, not a perfect test, and I know this isn't the easiest demonstration to give, but you can see that depending on what you like and how you want this to operate and what modes you want, if you want that tactical, well, now you got it. I personally don't really need that. So I'm not sure that I would use it in this mode. Rather, I'd go back to standard. Now, if I want to do that and go back to standard, I can long press. It's only 3 seconds now that I long press, so even that changes. And I can double click real quick in the first menu to hopefully get me back to the standard ramping. So let's try that. So long press, 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1. Bing, bing. Now I press twice. That should have changed the mode. I guess we'll see. We'll hope for the best. And if that's the case, this will be back in the ramping mode. And if this only has 4 menus, I think I've done it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this should flash and be done. And it did. So now, turning on the light, well, it's already remembered my last mode. If I hold the button down, now I'm back in that ramping mode. So as you can see, this is very, very sophisticated. It is not your standard flashlight. So again, double-edged sword, you need to be a little bit careful. You can get lost in all of this, but with practice and patience, I know it will come. And Very, very cool. I greatly enjoy this flashlight. It is absolutely amazing. And the last thing is, you can see I did add this little dome diffuser, which is kind of cool. It glows. It looks great. As I double click here real quick, we'll charge that up just for a second here. And you can see that nice glow. As you put this on, it does a great job to evenly diffuse the light. And where this is such a strong reflector, just perfectly smooth and deep, and throws light and has that huge candela, well, maybe having a nice soft diffuser is going to be kind of a key feature for you. And I know it was for me while I was hiking around my camp scenario. It did make quite a big difference in my ability to illuminate a nice wide area. So I suggest for anybody interested in the FT03 to definitely get themselves the diffuser. It's super cheap and it adds a huge amount of functionality. So very nice. I am very impressed at this flashlight. So all right guys, there you have it. A look at the Astrolux FT03. Again, a spectacular performer. And I hope that was helpful to kind of demonstrate why lumens is not always the telltale story. Candela, to me, is what you really need to pay attention to. And of course, it depends on your intended use and intended purpose for the flashlight. I mean, that's really the bottom line. However, looking at lumen output, again, it can be deceiving. So just pay attention to the details. But if you're looking for something that's a super mega performer, you want that high power, that punch, and punch at distance, this Astrolux FT03 might very much be the flashlight for you. And so again, I'd like to say thank you very much to the people at banggood.com who provided this for review. If you're interested in an Astrolux FT03, take a look at banggood.com. So all right guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.